In this episode of Step Into the Blue, the recruits of the San Jose Police Academy hit the mats to learn about defensive tactics and arrest techniques. Meanwhile, in the classroom, the recruits learn about community policing and crimes against children. And then it's home, home, home on the range.
Police officers come from all walks of life. Some start their careers right out of college. Others were business people, and many served in the military. But before they become police officers, all of them spend time as recruits at the police academy. Now, join the recruits of the San Jose Police Academy as they prepare to step into the blue.
Hello, I'm Dirk Parsons with the San Jose Police Department. Here in the state of California, all police academies are overseen by a state agency called POST. Now that stands for Peace Officers Standards and Training. And POST requires that each police recruit undergo a minimum of 664 hours of training. However, here at the San Jose Police Academy, they go well above and beyond that with 1,120 hours of training, almost double the minimum requirement. And then that is followed by 17 weeks of on-the-street training, one-on-one with a training officer. So let's join Class 16 right now and take a look at some of the training that they've received recently as they prepare to step into the blue. You might find this hard to believe, but when it's time to make an arrest, not everyone wants to go along with the program. Sometimes they'd rather try to escape, even if it means fighting with the officer. And because the recruits of Class 16 come from a wide range of backgrounds, the training might be delivered the same, but the results might be quite different. Some of the recruits have already served as law enforcement officers or in the military, while others have never been in a physical fight and have a lot to learn. Well, this is the place to do it. Lead Instructor Sergeant Steve Pappenfuss is there to make sure the training is consistent with the guidelines of the San Jose Police Department.
Okay, well, this is their defense and arrest tactics class. They have 20 sessions of this training. Each session is about 4 hours long. The reason that we do this class is because the officers need to learn, first of all, how to make an arrest on an individual, which is going to incorporate positions of disadvantage for the bad guys, position of advantage for the officers, how to manipulate the cuffs, how to put those cuffs on. And then there's some control holds, things like that. The other half of it is the defensive tactics part of it, which is basically how do they defend themselves against someone who's trying to attack them. They have a variety of tools on their belt. They have their baton, their OC, their taser, and their firearm. And we spend a bit of time on each one of those, how to use those, how to deploy them, how to put them into action. Obviously what we're trying to do is use the least amount of force that we can that's reasonable to solve the problem, but the officers need to be exposed to this over this 20-week time period so they become effective and efficient in their force employment.
The recruits need to understand the authority they have as police officers and the consequences of using any kind of force as they interact with the public. To accomplish that, sometimes they have to take on the role of the bad guy.
The officers get a chance, the recruits that is, get a chance during the academy to play the role of suspects. And everything that they learn to do to another individual, they have performed on them. So they learn what it feels like to get handcuffed. One of the things that we'd like to do is when we're putting the cuffs on an individual, most of the time, 99+% of the time, when we make an arrest, it's a completely compliant arrest. There's no resistance on the part of the subject. So while we're putting the handcuffs on, it's important that we don't injure the person or cause the person pain. Because if, as we're putting the cuffs on, we cause pain to the individual, that person could resist, and we turn that person into a fighter by the pain that we put on them. It's a natural reaction on someone's part if there's pain that they pull away from the pain. The officers then might perceive that there's resistance, and then they escalate their level of force. So it's important that they feel what it feels like to have the cuffs applied so that they learn how not to hurt somebody in that process.
The recruits aren't the only ones who play the part of the bad guy. Spouses, roommates, and family members also frequently get drafted by the recruits for handcuffing practice, and they find out what it's like to get arrested. Scenario practice and testing never stops. So when you're at home and you need to practice, who are you going to call? Most likely it's going to be family and friends who offer moral support, endless words of encouragement, and the occasional arm or wrist.
Also during the academy, they get an opportunity to be tased. They get a taser exposure, so they know what that feels like. They get exposed to the OC as well. We don't hit them live with batons, and we don't shoot them. Those are about the only things we don't get done, or the recruits don't have done to them, because obviously we can't do that. But during this whole process, it's important that they feel it so that they learn how to control their use of force.
Each week, the recruits have many hours of classroom instruction. Recent sessions have included community policing and crimes against children. Now, there are some misconceptions about community policing. Some members of the public believe that it means more officers will be patrolling their neighborhoods, but community policing is actually a partnership between the police and the community. It's based on the fact that the police cannot be everywhere, and that the city's residents, along with other community and city resources, must work together in the fight against crime.
Community policing in the academy, the philosophy is we're trying to teach the recruits that community policing is very important to the community as well it is to our department. We try to empower the community to take control of situations and try to train them and educate them on the philosophies of the department, as well as use the skills that we have here at the department and all the resources available to help the community become more empowered in becoming involved in problem solving.
Over the past few weeks, other Classroom Academy sessions included an introduction to criminal law, laws of arrest, and search and seizure. However, one of the classes that has an impact on everyone is crimes against children, and recruits who are also parents are particularly affected. The victims of these crimes are sometimes so traumatized that they remain silent.
I think the assumption is that children will report immediately, but the truth is that they won't. And they don't report for a variety of reasons, but I think mainly it's a sense of shame, okay, a sense of guilt, a sense of that they should have been able to prevent it from happening in the first place, okay. So all of those things combined together really prevent the child from coming forward and letting a parent know about what happened to them.
And to wrap up this episode of Step Into the Blue, the recruits head to the gun range. The range class starts with an 8-hour classroom lecture that covers everything from firearms terminology to range safety. That is followed by 17 weekly range classes, each of which is 4 hours long. As we mentioned before, the recruits of Class 16 come from a variety of backgrounds. Sergeant Teddy LeCap talks about the challenges of teaching these new recruits.
The challenges are tough for teaching newer recruits. The level of experience goes from zero experience with the handguns all the way up to military experience. But with every range class or academy class, as I say, we start at the lowest level or the most inexperienced officer, and we bring everybody up at the same level.
Recruit Todd McMahon is like many young recruits in that he has little experience with firearms. In fact, he admits that his real interest when he was growing up was surfing. But since police officers must be proficient with a firearm, Recruit McMahon is anxious to learn everything he can.
I'm like a sponge, just trying to soak it all up right now. Wasn't raised around a lot of guns, so it's just getting as much as I can out of it.
Now, Todd McMahon and the other recruits can rest assured that by the 17th week of training, and with the help of the range instructors, all members of Class 16 will have achieved a high level of proficiency. In fact, at the conclusion of the range sessions, the recruits will compete against one another to see who wins the title of Top Gun. And what a difference just a few weeks make. Already, the class has progressed and the recruits are honing their shooting skills. Obviously, when teaching a class where live rounds are being fired, safety is a major concern. The range instructors are always vigilant to ensure there are no safety violations. Those can result in disciplinary action against the recruit or his or her entire team. The punishment can be anything from having to clean up the range at the end of the day to the entire team being ordered to hit the floor for push-ups. So obviously you don't want to be the one who committed the safety violation.
So while I committed the safety violation when we had a malfunction, I'm supposed to take the finger off the trigger, tap the bottom of the magazine, and then rack the firearm. I did the opposite, had my finger too far on the trigger guard, racked it, and then tapped it. So I cost my team a safety violation, which is unexcusable.
The Academy's range curriculum is designed to ensure that each recruit becomes proficient in handling a firearm safely and in accordance with the department's policies, which state that the recruit can only use the weapon to defend themselves or another person against the threat of death or significant physical injury. In the next episode of Step Into the Blue, there might not be blood, but there's certainly sweat, and there could be some tears as the recruits begin their regimen of physical training. And you'll also have the opportunity to meet some of the recruits as they prepare to step into the blue.